Hello, and welcome to Gaming Knuckleheads Talk, the show that asks the hard-hitting questions such as, is Metroid Prime 4 coming to the Switch or the next console? And then refuses to answer them. I'm Gear, and as usual, we have Brent and Matt, but no guest stars, because nobody loves us. Yeah, I'm kidding. I just don't know who to ask a guest on the show, but we got our usual brand of topics tonight, and we're going to come out swinging with another hard one. First is what counts as finish it later in game development, which I think is a very loaded question, and I keep forgetting to switch to the chat window in case anybody pops in and has something to say. I will get the hang of as soon as I'm saying welcome that I'm supposed to click that button, but not today. I think it's a very loaded question because, for example, it's like a lot of people say that Mario Golf is finish it later because of free updates. Yet the size of the roster at launch, can that really qualify as finish it later? Yeah. And it also loops to say on one end of that, like some people say that paid DLC is considered finish it later. Like there are some people, like the episode where we talked about pricing, I mentioned that some people are like, oh, I'm not going to pay for DLC for Breath of the Wild because this shows the game was not finished before it was released. Would you say that Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is unfinished just because they're doubling the number of tracks?
I wouldn't.
Some people would. And then on the opposite side of the Mario Golf argument, there's say one thing that I feel could qualify as finish it later. I didn't really do the in-depth research. I just read what Cerebi posted. But Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl had a day one patch that put things into the game that should have been in there prior to release. And it's there was stuff like the opening cutscene, the battle music. Basically, I'm pretty sure the game would be incapable of running if that patch wasn't downloaded. That sounds like finish it later. Get the game on the shelves, and then a day later, just launch a patch so everyone can play. So let's try to figure this out. What counts as finish it later?
Well, I wouldn't say that. I mean, I know I was bringing this topic up, but like fighting games and stuff.
You're the fighting game guru of the group. I expect it.
Yeah. In recent fighting games, in order to compete fairly with everybody, you're pretty much expected to get the paid DLC.
Yeah.
And so it's not really a complete game if you can't practice against a character,
Yeah.
And the only way to do that is to that I would call that finish it later.
Yeah. But that really does expand upon the DLC argument too. DLC should be there to be optional. If you can't play without buying the DLC, that comes off as pay to win to begin with,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going back to Mario Kart. You have 48 tracks, a subpar character roster. I will admit the roster is subpar. And you've got everything there. You've got the Grand Prix, a time trial, your versus race, and deluxe. 5 different battle modes. They're adding in 6 characters and an additional 48 tracks, but you don't need those additional characters. You don't need those additional tracks to win. You can still win if you're good in the engine class.
Yeah.
Yeah. And fighting games need to take a page from that. Make your DLC optional for people who want it. Don't make it so that if they don't buy it, they're going to get their asses handed to them online.
Well, yeah, I mean, I agree. It's kind of a complex subject,
Yeah.
Because on the one hand, people want more characters, and on the other hand, that means that the game is continually unfinished.
Yeah. And, I want more tracks. I'd rather have seen Banshee Boardwalk over Blue Lake, but still. Brent, what counts as finish it later to you?
Finish it later. Got two topics on this sort of thing. Finish it later is more for me if the game has been released and it has all the things that it was supposed to have, then it does not qualify under to that. That's like adding in, like, say, new modes and stuff like that, like things that weren't originally promised in there. That doesn't count to me as finish it later. But if something is released without stuff that was promised, that definitely falls into finish it later.
And it's like, because like a lot of people are saying like the Mario sports games on the Switch are finish it later because they had such little content and more was pushed out. It's like, oh well, we want this game released by this time, so instead of putting all this content in, we're just going to release time. I say it's a valid argument, but the argument that you pose right there was that were the additional characters, like in Strikers, for example, were those supposed to be there at launch, or were they an afterthought? Like they could have delayed the game. They could have put those characters in and then just given us an even bigger roster than what we ended up with.
Yeah.
And I never played Strikers before Battle League, and it's fun, but I hate the CPU. Yeah. Unless I can play with just like two people, with like four people, teams of 2-on-2, it's like I really find myself not wanting to play it just because of the CPU alone.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, a lot of people criticize me. Oh, you bought a lazy, unfinished game. You're a Nintendo shill. I've never played Strikers before. It's something that everybody was saying, oh my God, it's about time. I can't wait. I didn't buy it because it's Mario Strikers, yo. I bought it because I wanted to see what the fuss was about. I wanted to see what this pseudo-violent soccer game was about, you know? Yeah. But I agree with the people, half agree with the people who say that it counts as finish it later. I feel that the content that came out post-launch should have been in the game for a bigger, more polished product. And we could have gotten more as an afterthought. Yeah, because to me, free updates are perfectly acceptable. But if you're using it as an excuse to be lazy, just why? Slight bit of an annoyance there, but you know that's just on me. Any more thoughts on this?
Got one related to, at least like in terms of like DLC. I'm talking about like DLC after the game has been released.
Free or paid?
Both.
Go ahead.
Basically, if it just adds more to the game, but isn't like needed to like affect the game itself, or if it does, then it's like it's an added bonus you get if you add into there, but it's not necessary. Then I don't see that as finish it later.
Right.
But if it does affect it like in a very big way, or add something that again was supposed to be promised at launch but wasn't there, then that's finish it later.
Yeah. And I will say, some games could benefit from more content than they have, and then it just doesn't come out. Like two big ones. First, Super Bomberman R. Battle mode is just a traditional standard battle mode. Then you look at a game like Bomberman Blast on the WiiWare. They should have incorporated elements from other battle modes and given us multiple ways to play. Like,
I totally agree.
Yeah, like I know that like they're bringing like the online shit into R2 that was in like a separate online thing that they added in. But let's say that prior to R2's release, R1 comes out like, oh, here's this, that, and that for battle mode, and here are some bonus stages for story mode. Where the hell were these 6 years ago when the Switch came out?
Yeah, I know.
Another one that's a bit more loaded, but I still think is a valid opinion, is Mario Party Superstars. Super Mario is the worst possible example of a game on the Switch. It is a game for a handheld tablet that requires you to either put it into tabletop mode or TV mode and you play it on the go. When you're on like a long ass train ride and you want to play a game fast time. And game. Then they make a much better, more Mario Party Hudson Soft era and Superstars, and they only give us 10 characters.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I've said this on Gaming Knuckleheads Talk or in a previous video, or if I said it on the old channel, but it's like a lot of people are like, well, and like more boards. We should have had at least one board from each of, at minimum, the base 8 Mario Party Hudson Soft games.
Agreed.
If you want to be generous, throw in, say, a board from DS.
Mhm.
Is the abomination of the Mario Party family. Anyway, but it's like, well, it makes sense to utilize just Nintendo 64 boards because that was the only games where you were the superstar. Explain how I get called the superstar in Mario Party 5 when I win, or in 6 or 7.
Mhm.
In fact, I think the only game, I think the only games where you don't get called the superstar are 4 and 5, I think. Because I'd have to play through 5 again. I don't own 4, so I'd have to watch like an ending results on YouTube. But I'm pretty sure you get called the Dream Star in 5. But in 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, and 8, as well as DS, you get called the superstar when you win.
Yeah.
So the argument that you were only called the superstar is in Mario Parties 1 through 3 is not only factually incorrect, it invalidates your defense of not using more boards. Like you're not giving a good enough reason to not include boards from 4 through 8. And there should have been more content. And it's like everyone was like, "There's not enough boards in Super Mario Party." A, I agree. B, they never gave us DLC. And that brings up like people like, there's all this information that the data miners uncovered. Hopefully this means we'll get DLC. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we're what? October of this year is 2 years since Superstars launch?
Yeah.
Unless they're going to pull a booster course pass type deal where they announce it years down the line, and this close to the rumors of, people are now saying we're more than likely getting the announcement of the next system next year. This close to the alleged announcement and upcoming release of a new system, if they don't do it before the release of the new system, they ain't doing it.
I also highly doubt on that because compared to the Mario Kart 8, Super wasn't really that big of a,
Yeah, and you remember in 2018 when we played, I believe your exact words were, "I'm not having fun."
Yeah, I mean, I was having fun on some mini games, but in terms of majority, no, I was not.
Yep. Hold on. Why did my phone just try to autocorrect the word "doing" for doing a live stream to "doggo"?
I've got no idea. But while you're doing that, I also have an
Done.
example I think that falls into finish it later.
All right.
Okay, so you guys know I like the Mass Effect series, even regardless of the bad ending. I agree it was pretty bad, but I enjoyed 1, 2, and like 98% of 3. There are 2 DLCs that I can note of. One that doesn't fall into Finish It Later, and one that does fall into Finish It Later. First one is, and I'm not going to say Citadel because that one I technically am not counting to there. I'm counting more towards one called Omega, which originally was supposed to be a location you were supposed to go in the game, but they ended up scrapping it. And to be fair to it, the story really does not connect to the rest of the story, so it can be its own separate thing. But there's one called From the Ashes, and From the Ashes, anyone who has played this knows what I'm referring to.
I think Ace Attorney's going to sue somebody. I'm kidding.
Can I finish?
Yeah. Sorry.
Anyways, From the Ashes is a day 1 released paid DLC that introduced an additional party member. The thing is that this party member answers a lot of lore-related questions, and it's very clear you are supposed to have this person.
Yeah.
Does that sound like Finish It Later to you? Because it does to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, even if it was released day one, still.
And to be fair, people could mark that particular aspect as have to be brought, you know?
Yeah, but sorry, don't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, go ahead.
But those questions are not answered unless you have the DLC.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's really where I can see the distinction. It's like, well, we're going to put this in at a later date. But if you don't have access to it, you're never going to know these answers. So it's like, at the very least, maybe you should, if you're going to put in lore, make sure it's irrelevant to the base story and it's optional. It's like in a game of D&D, characters, DMs tend to ask characters or players to make their characters' backstories, but the backstories don't need to become a central part of the overall campaign. They're just there to be utilized for character building and potentially allowing the DM to utilize information in the backstory in the campaign itself. A character's backstory, except for some main points like where they're from, why they're adventuring, that sort of thing. Outside of that, most main plot points are optional. Like, they're not exactly necessary for the game to run, and the players don't necessarily need to answer optional-based questions about their character's background and lore unless it's relevant. Yeah. So it's like, I think that's how they should have handled From the Ashes in Mass Effect. I've never even played the Mass Effect games, but hearing what you're saying, I'm like, yeah, mishandling.
Yeah, exactly. I really do not know what the decision was on that. I honestly think it was a decision made by EA, truthfully. Because, again, like, the thing about it is that you don't need to do this quest or have this character to play the game. But with how much he explains, because he's a survivor from a very ancient race, it definitely feels like he is supposed to be in there.
Here's the multi-billion-dollar question. When does EA ever make smart decisions?
That's a good question. Are we talking way further into the... How far in the past can we go? Because...
Microtransaction era.
I was about to say, okay, because I'm going to have to do some research then.
Because there was a time before when EA... It's like when I say, like, Nintendo, Miyamoto used to be a wise man, and now he's just an arrogant windbag.
Yeah.
There was a time when EA made smart decisions, and then monetization and microtransaction came along, and now they're literally like, everything we do is stupid, and we're going to try to defend it. It's like, and it's really irrelevant, but I'll do it before we segue. Like, that incident with FIFA on the Switch, those two kids, minors, mind you, in England, used their parents' credit card without permission and emptied their parents' bank account. How is that not credit card fraud?
Yeah.
It is.
It is. And EA said, EA basically condoned illegal activity. They said, we don't care if that money was stolen from your account. Because it was given to us, you're not getting it back. For that alone, EA should have faced some sort of legal trouble without being brought to trial. Like, they should have been told by a judge that the CEO could be arrested and thrown in jail if they didn't give back the money. Guess how they got their money back?
How?
Nintendo gave them money out of Nintendo's bank account back. EA took their money, and Nintendo said, here's the amount of money in euros that was taken from you without your permission and given to EA from our personal bank account. even though we didn't get this money, EA did. We're doing the right thing, and we're giving it back to you.
Mhm.
It's like, based off what EA did right there alone, there is no defense for them not providing a refund in that situation.
Mhm.
Even if the kids didn't know what they were doing is wrong, it still qualifies as an illegal act.
Mhm.
As an adult in his 30s, if I did something like that, I would be thrown in jail.
Mhm.
So while I can understand a kid not wanting to be thrown in jail or a judge not wanting to do that because it's a kid, they don't know any better,
Mhm.
EA still should have done the right thing, and the parents should have explained to the children why what they did was wrong,
Mhm.
so that they learn.
Mhm.
But moving on, and Matt, because this is a topic you submitted, I am going to ask you to clarify.
Yeah.
Gaming, is it a one and done experience? What do you mean by
Well-
one and done?
Well, what I mean by is like do you consider like when you like finish a game, do you ever
Mhm.
consider like really going back to playing it? I mean, especially if it's like a long game.
That's actually what I figured, and I'd already prepared my response, but go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, like a long game like Chrono Trigger or something.
Yeah.
I mean, but that has
Or
multiple
Persona.
endings.
Or Persona.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, do you consider it like basically um I mean when you get to the end of the story, I mean, do you end up going like, um now that I finished it, there's no reason to play it again.
Well, I'll let
I
you start us off on this.
all right.
Mhm. I'm sorry, say that again?
I'll let you start us off on this.
Okay. Um well, basically like I really like replaying like the Super Nintendo titles like Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy and stuff. And basically all those games I consider them really replayable because of just how varied you can make them from Final Fantasy 5 and 6
Yeah.
and some of the PlayStation titles like Final Fantasy Tactics and
Mhm.
stuff because
Yeah.
of all the different ways you can like uh choose how you want to uh like customize your character.
Mm-hmm.
Here,
So
there's a cat behind you.
I know there's a cat by me. I'm letting the audience look at the cuteness. And she's confused as to why the chair is swiveling. Hey, Gizmo.
Let
I'm
me eat the
telling
curtain.
you, she's going to take over as the show's host one day. Yeah.
Sorry about that. Please continue, Matt.
Well, I was pretty much done. What do you think, Brent?
Um, for me, it can vary on certain things. One particular thing is how enjoyable it was. Do you want to go and experience all of that again?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I had the feeling when I first played Dead Space, like I wanted to play through that game again, even
Yeah.
through the frustrating stuff.
Hmm.
And the other thing that I think that also motivates it is two other factors. One, what more is there to do? Like if you complete, say, a big story, like say in Final Fantasy or Persona, did you do everything? Can you do something different? Because that definitely will motivate you to want to go back again. And if there's not, then, well, you're not going to want to put like, say, 100 hours for the same thing.
Yeah.
And then the last thing, and this is a more personal thing for me, is time, because I enjoy playing video games, but with how busy I am with weekly, I can't put like hundreds of hours into one game.
Right.
What about you, dear?
Bit of a wordy response. For like what you said, for example, about what more is there to do. One where I feel it could be considered one and done is like a Zelda game. Unless you want to like unlock a couple of additional optional secrets, once you beat the boss, there's not much to come back to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and like with Persona, like okay, so I'm playing Persona 5 and I'm following a walkthrough and I followed it to the letter. But some things that are supposed to be happening, like I was told to brew coffee on April 26th. I did. I was told on April 27th if I talked to Sojiro, the Hierophant Arcana would rank up to 3.
Mm-hmm.
I talked to him, and I have a screenshot on my Switch of this. I don't think my bond with Sojiro will deepen just yet, even though, according to the walkthrough, it should reach level 3 on the 27th if you brew coffee on the 26th. Now, I'm only using the walkthrough to know which DVDs raise which stats, which books raise which stats, what the correct quiz answers are, so I can actually like up my stats.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm aiming for the teacher. I am hot for teacher in this game, you know?
Okay, did not need to know that.
Funny. But it's like for me, well, you know, so I need to know, like I think you need guts for the teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Like you need to raise your guts in order to get her to social rank 9 and date her.
I'm trying to remember. I do know guts is definitely needed for the airsoft shop owner, but I'm trying to remember what she is.
To date the airsoft shop owner?
No. To increase, like, you know, your stats.
Yeah, no, I'm saying in terms of like, you know how you need to have your specific.
I know. I'm
that's
trying to
what
remember
I'm
the stats.
yeah.
That's what I'm trying to remember. Because guts, when I think of guts, I think of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have like a link to an article on the romantic partners and what stats you need to date them. But but you know, but it's like I've already completed Kamoshida's Castle.
Mm-hmm.
I've already seen the May 2nd cutscene, and I'm tempted to say it just because everybody and their brother knows it by now, but I'm also tempted not to because you know how Atlas is.
Mm-hmm.
But I basically know what happens on May 2nd, the day that the protagonists, Ryuji and An, are supposed to be expelled.
Mm-hmm.
That's how many hours of gameplay I've gone through to get from the beginning of the game to May 2nd. If I wanted to figure out where I went wrong and try to follow that walkthrough to the letter, I would have to start a brand new save file and start from the very beginning.
Right.
Mm-hmm. That's something I feel is more saved for New Game Plus, especially if I want to date a different character.
Mm-hmm.
Because like you can date multiple characters in Persona, but you can get caught. So
Mm-hmm.
I want to take the smart route, play the game, invest the time, and then do it again with another romantic interest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's like, but yeah, you know, like I feel that Persona, whether it's one and done, is dependent upon whether you want to go back in and play again, or if because of how big it is and how long it is, the number of hours you invested, do you feel it's worth doing it again?
Yeah.
Like games like Mario Kart, Super Smash Brothers, these are not one and done. They're meant to be played. And it's like replay value is the word of the day. The phrase of the day is the word. Yeah. Like I feel a game is considered one and done if there's no replay value to it. And bigger games that have replay value, whether it's one and done, is based on how much time you're willing to invest in a massive game with replay value a second time around.
Yeah.
Yeah. But replay value, in my opinion, is what determines whether or not it's a one and done situation.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. So, but yep. Any more thoughts on this?
Well, I think it's also dependent on how much you can customize, you know, your characters or a character, you know, like, and how fast you can skip through certain segments of the game after if you've completed it already once, you know? Like, if they give you, like, advanced equipment at the start of the new game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or in this case of Persona, you know, like, the more powerful personas.
Yeah. Or in the case of Persona 4, Bearsona.
Yeah.
I love Teddy.
Yes.
He's awesome. He's awesome.
Yeah. Jumps from the rooftop, eats shit.
Big bro, Teddy, what's horny?
Ah!
I don't know if that actually appears in Persona 4 itself because I haven't gotten that far, but I know that's in the anime adaptation. They literally start playing a game of ping pong to get away with telling Nanako what's going on.
Yes.
Yep. Ooh, I wonder if that camera lag was because of the weather down here. Oof.
Probably is because
I gotta walk my fat ass to the gym in that weather after this.
Yeah,
Is it
good
right?
luck with that.
Is
Yeah,
it
good luck with
storming?
Just raining. A slight bit of light thunder. I don't know if my microphone is. I know it's omnidirectional. I just don't know if it's powerful enough to pick up like the thunder outside. Like, could you hear my washing machine going on while we were?
I didn't hear anything aside from your voice.
I heard the washing machine here and there.
Usually when you were being quiet, but
Yeah. So it's like So it's like but I don't know if it's big enough to pick up outside noises like thunder, like when they were shooting off fireworks when we did the turtle stream. Matt, you said you couldn't hear the fireworks even though I was apologizing for the noise.
Yeah.
yeah, I don't hear any thunder.
I heard that. Remind me to bring
I
my
heard that
umbrella.
I heard that.
Yeah, I gotta walk to the gym in that weather when this is done to get onto my exercise. Mm-hmm.
Don't die.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
catch
don't-
cold or whatever.
Or carry anything
Hi,
metal and hold it high.
you guys can fight amongst which of my video game consoles and systems you want. I just have to find someone to take care of the cats.
Mhm.
Okay, morbid joking aside, do we have any more to say on this particular topic?
I don't.
I don't.
All right, the last one of the night. Indie versus AAA, the pros and the cons.
Mm-hmm.
I think we know who. Brent, can you see the direction I'm pointing?
Yeah, I can see the direction you're pointing.
Am I pointing at you?
Yeah, on my screen.
You think anybody heard? You think anybody watching heard this? We all know whose topic this was, considering what we all start off in the topics we submitted. Brent, take us away.
Okay, so I'll start with AAA and now I'll move on to indie. Some of the pros of AAA is that they usually come from bigger companies, so they have more resources, more staff, and basically can make some pretty amazing games. I mean, there are definitely a few out there like recently that you can talk about, like say Final Fantasy 16 and such.
Yeah.
But biggest con they have is that they kind of usually like have what's the word, like backers, and they kind of need to release these things on a certain date.
Yeah.
And that usually can lead to, at worst, crunch, which affects the employees themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, at best, crunch, which affects the employees. And then worse is a broken mess of the game. Or like, something that is
Pokemon. Like I'm just gonna come out. I'm gonna say it. The backers might choose whether or not they want to invest money, but if AAA developers want quality to be delivered at launch, they need to tell the backers, "We need more time." When the backers are saying, "You need to do this by then," excuse me, are you a member of the corporate board? Are you the CEO of the company developing the game? We don't want our players to deal with a broken, laggy mess. We don't want our employees to be negatively affected by crunch time. We are delaying this game. Those of you who pull out, so be it. They need to start doing that.
Yeah, like perfect example and good for bringing it up here. One particular one that comes to mind is Cyberpunk 2077. Like,
yeah,
game was released very buggy without a lot of things in there. And one thing I did hear about was that the time that the group needed, they weren't allowed that. The only time they were even given a bit of a delay was because COVID had kicked in and everyone was shut down. So they had an excuse.
Yeah.
But that was the only time they were allowed to delay the game a little bit.
And that's pretty much where it's like, you got to stand up to the backers. Like, I know, like let's take like the Barbie movie, for example. I know it's hot topic. I know it's controversial, but it's like media said Barbie is a huge success. First off, Barbie is a huge success financially based on the fact that people are buying tickets. When people come back and say, I think this was a bad movie, you don't see it, is that really a success?
Nope.
If 98% of the audience is saying it's a bad movie, is that a success just because they made this much on ticket sales?
No, it's not.
Exactly. It's like, just because a game sells does not mean that the game is a success. It just means that a lot of people bought it. And
yeah, exactly.
That's the way the backers operate. Well, if people buy the game, it means it's a success. To prove my theory, let me discuss Pokemon Scarlet and Violet.
Go right ahead.
Laggy, glitchy. They literally released a patch that deleted and corrupted save data. It was at the patch level, which means it was hard, if not impossible, for them to patch out the corruption glitch, which thankfully affected only less than 1% of players. But any player was potentially still at risk. It was the product of a company that A, rushes, B, only cares about the money that the financial backers give them rather than quality, and C, is delusional to the point where they think they are an independent studio. Like, it's good if you want to collect and play with the new Pokemon. It's good if you want to experience the new branching story, because they did do things with the storyline a little bit differently. There's some of the same old, but they fleshed it out, you know? But I would not recommend the game unless you just love Pokemon to the point where you don't care, you just want to play Pokemon. If you care about in-depth quality, I would tell people my honest opinion, having played both. If you care about quality to a point where quality is the most important factor in buying a game, save your money. But if you don't care, if you're like, Pokemon is Pokemon and I love Pokemon, in that case, go nuts. One thing that I think is a pro of independent studios is, like, they come out with some pretty cool games. Like, would you say that Tribute and .mu qualify as indie studios, or have they reached success with AAA?
That's a hard one to say. I'd honestly say maybe falling more towards indie.
They put out some amazing games. Like, I love Streets of Rage 4. I love Shredder's Revenge. Like, I want them to just come out. I don't care if I have to wait. I just want them to come out like tomorrow and say, hey, here's when Dimension Shell Shock's coming out. Tell me when I get to give you more money to get the new content. Because I saw the trailer for the new content, man, sent it to me. I'm like, fuck yeah, I can't wait. Indie studios make some amazing games, but I think one con is that because they're not AAA, they get pelted with a lot of unnecessary hate. Like, and I don't just mean like Tribute or .mu. I mean like indie studios in general. Like, look at Yacht Club. Shovel Knight is a very fun, very challenging platformer.
Yep.
But Yacht Club Games is an independent studio. And a lot of people are, well, it's an indie game. I don't care. If the game is good, it does not matter whether or not it was, because indie studios can put out stinkers just like AAA studios can.
Yeah.
A game is a game. If it's good, play it and recommend it.
Yeah.
What about you, Matt? Pros and cons?
I'd say, like, as far as pros, like the indie studios, they still have to crunch a lot, I feel. But at the same, and you know, they don't have as much resources. But what they do have is usually a lot more freedom to do whatever they want. Because, you know, they're usually given like I mean, they usually have to really innovate to try to outperform the AAA games.
Yeah.
You know, in people's minds, you know, because you can't just say, oh, you know, here's another Mario game. They have to go, you know, like, here's something that makes us way different from Mario, and here's something that makes us way different from Mega Man or whatever.
Yeah,
You know,
and
so
like with and with indie studios, like okay, like there's a game that was supposed to come out in 2022.
mhm.
It got pushed back to 2023. It's still not out. I'm worried it's going to be pushed back to 2024 or come out on a future console.
Mhm.
It's a point and click adventure. It's called Locomotive.
Mhm.
I think Chucklefish is actually involved with it. I
Ooh.
think Chucklefish, the people are responsible for Stardew Valley.
Oh, I know. That's
Yeah.
why I said ooh.
But I saw the trailer for it. The same indie showcase that revealed Shredder's Revenge.
Mhm.
It looks really fun. It is an heiress is murdered on a train, and
Mhm.
you assume the roles of the various suspects, and you got to figure out who done it.
Mhm.
It's a very comedic murder mystery adventure game. It
Mhm.
looks like it's going to be a lot of fun, and the trailer was narrated by the heiress, like, "Oh, I'm the heiress, and I own this railway company. Here's the twist. I've been murdered, and it's up to you to figure out who did it. Which one of you did it?"
Yeah.
Looks like it's going to be a lot of fun, and I do love a good point and click adventure, even if I sometimes need a walkthrough to make sure I'm on the right track.
Mhm.
We can do a whole discussion on Myst, or as I like to call it, where the fuck am I going?
Yeah. And
So we won't. If my computer wants to behave to a point where we can play Myst, or if it runs well on my Switch, we can make all those jokes we want. But it's like,
Yeah.
it's like, but it's like, I do this game. I loved what I saw in the trailer, and this is a game that I'm going to want to invest money in, even though it's not from a AAA development studio. And I hope that a lot of people can appreciate. I feel like in the past, indie studios got more hate than they deserve, but now that they're showing what they're capable of, I feel like they're starting to get a little bit more love and respect. And
Yeah.
again, a game is a game. I don't care if it comes from a AAA studio or an indie studio. If it's a game that I want to play, I'm going to play it. If it's a game that I like, I'm going to recommend it.
Yeah, a lot of people are looking forward to Hollow Knight Silt Song.
Yeah, that's another game that was announced like a couple of years back, and we're still waiting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate thing.
Well, unfortunate and kind of fortunate. It's like because they're not held down by the financial backers.
Yeah.
Like the AAA studios, so they are giving the game as much polish. Like they want to make sure that the game is just as good, if not better, than the first Hollow Knight.
Yeah.
And they want to make sure that they deliver a level of quality, and they don't have backers breathing that. So it's unfortunate to the gamers because we have to wait longer, but it's fortunate for them because they don't. I don't know the name of the studio that makes Hollow Knight, but that studio, they don't have to worry about crunch time or a broken, buggy game being released and patched up later. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I definitely agree with that because, it's like when you're an indie game studio, I mean, usually there's a lot to, there's just lots more things to consider than a AAA because, like I said, you don't have as much resources. And, but that also means I think that they pay more attention to, certain studios pay more attention to, like, the little things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing about indie games is that also in terms of like getting sometimes bad reps because they're not AAA or their games don't look as good. I've got an example for one. I haven't played it myself, but I have seen other people play it. You guys heard the game Choo Choo Charles?
No.
Oh yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah, it's an indie game. Basically, it's a horror game where you're chased by a possessed train, and you have your own train that you use to escape and fight it.
Like a Thomas the Tank Engine on like horror type deal, or like Charge Man from Mega Man.
Thomas the Tank Engine horror with spider legs. But here's the thing: play the game. The game, from what I've seen, is fun. It's fun to do, but there are definitely some things that look kind of bad on it. Like some of the There's not a lot of detail to like the NPCs. There's no like, cutscenes are a little janky. You want to know something about that? That entire game made by one guy.
Holy shit.
So if one guy can make that, imagine if an entire team worked on that.
Yeah.
Like people don't see this thing that indie games usually have less people working on this. So sometimes they look bad because they don't have as many people.
Mm-hmm.
But again, Choo Choo Charles, all of that. Look up anything's on that. All of that, one guy.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on.
Yeah, and did you know that there's this famous?
Hey, I am not showing this image on the stream. Holy shit, that is one scary ass train.
You should not have looked it up.
You just told me to.
I did not.
Basically, though, there's also this. There's this one popular game, or no, it's still a popular series called the Toho series, and it was basically like
anime girls fighting each other.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, it was made. It's still made by one developer over in Japan, and basically, it's been popular for years. So it just goes to show you that even just one guy can really do a lot if they're super motivated.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of anime girls fighting each other, one game that I've wanted to look into on the fighting game spectrum is actually Skullgirls.
Oh yeah, the new DLC.
I've seen people play that game. It looks fun as hell.
Yeah, I have it on Steam.
Which system do you have it for, Matt? Because I'm looking into the Switch one.
Oh, I have it on Steam.
Good. How is it?
It's pretty good. I mean, you get lots of free updates and everything.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, I'll definitely have to work on investing in that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think it costs too much either. So
I know it's like about 20 something on the eShop. So.
Yeah, but I mean that's on the lower end.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh, we got any more on the topic, or are we heading into wrap-up territory?
I mean, I still had my indies pros and cons, but you guys pretty much said what I was going to say, so.
We beat you to the punch?
Yeah.
Well, anything more to add?
Personally, for me, no. What about you, Matt?
No, I'm good.
All right. Thank you for tuning in. As always, share your thoughts in the comments below. And tell us what indie games that might be upcoming that you're looking forward to, because that's best on answer like all the questions, like what you think is Finish It Later, is it one and done, what consider but when it comes to like indie versus AAA, tell us what indie titles you're looking forward to, and I have an umbrella to fetch and some prayers to say, because I want to get my exercise in and come home in one piece.
Yep.
We will see you next time.
Bye-bye.
See ya.